Mr. J.J. Jones.
Hello, and thank y'all for having us. Tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Knoxville. Actually, I've lived in Cumberland Estates all my life, just right down the road. I went to West High School, and from West High School, I went to the University of Tennessee, and I graduated with a master's degree in criminal justice. Went to work at the sheriff's office in 1980. It was a tiny sheriff's office then, about 125 prisoners and about 200 individuals, officers. Now there's 1,000 officers and about 1,200 prisoners. So you can tell how much it's grown since then. I was the sheriff. Well, I worked in many offices at the sheriff's office, not all of them, but most all of the offices. And then I became sheriff in 2007. I was a sheriff from 2007 to 2018. And during my tenure as sheriff, we were able to do some really good things. We were able to introduce body-worn cameras. It was the first time we had dash-mounted cameras, but we didn't have officers that wore body-worn cameras. So we introduced that. We got on board with that before it was before George Floyd. So after George Floyd, it was pretty much mandatory that cameras were coming in. So we looked up and got in on that before that happened, which saved the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. People don't realize what those cameras and what the storage costs. It's a huge fee that we pay every year to have those. We also were lucky enough to get in on 287G. Back then, 287G was a jail model. If someone that was an illegal immigrant got stopped or arrested and brought to jail, then the ICE agent was in the jail, and he would start the deportation process right then, and it would go from there. Now they've progressed to what they have, a task force model. And a task force model is where you're trained, your officers are trained, they're credentialed like ICE agents, and when they're putting on patrol shifts, and when someone's stopped who may be an illegal immigrant, then one of those officers can go to the scene immediately and start the process then. So we've come a long way. We've come a long way with the sheriff's office. $120 million budget. To me, it's the most important Knox County elected official there is. They protect you and your families. And we've all done it for a long time. And I look forward to your questions.
Okay. All right. Brent Gibson, hold on, let me take a drink real quick.
I'll take one for you.
So Brent Gibson, my father was in the United States Army, and I was born in South Carolina, Fort Jackson. Moved from Fort Jackson to Fort Hood, Texas. From Fort Hood, Texas, over to Germany, Hanau, Germany. We lived in Hanau for about 2.5 years, then Stuttgart and Heidelberg. Came back to the United States. He was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then I spent my informative years going to high school, junior high, and middle school, high school in Washington, just outside of Washington D.C. in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. So I grew up all over the United States. Loved the country. Loved living in D.C. We lived just about a mile and a half from George Washington's plantation there on the Potomac. We would ride our bicycles over there all the time, and then up the the GWP, George Washington Parkway, to the mall, and actually go and see, the museums and such when I was growing up. So it was very nice, very good history. I come from a family of service. But I came to college here in 1992 to play football. So I was recruited out of my high school. My dad was got deployed to Germany during the Gulf War. And in the early 90s, we moved to North Carolina, Canton, North Carolina to be exact. I graduated from a small high school over there, came here to play football in 1992, was recruited by a lot of people, a lot of colleges, right out of hig school, and it could go to pretty much anywhere I wanted to, and I had my mind set on going to Florida State. All right, so Florida State, the Bobby Bowden era, won a lot of games, did a lot of good things down there, but I played against a guy named Heath Schuler in North Carolina, and he came to the University of Tennessee and made me come over here for official visit, and I hadn't regretted it. Johnny Majors came to the house. My mom fell in love with him. We were having beef stew. He cracked the cornbread up in the milk, ate it with a spoon. I mean, she was in love, and it was all over then. So I spent 5.5 years working on my degree over at the University of Tennessee. In the meantime, played a little football with a bunch of people you guys might know. I was Peyton Manning Center my senior year in 1996. Graduated at the beginning of the year in 1997 with a degree in sociology, emphasis in criminal justice. Was looking for something to do. I thought I was going to play football for the rest of my life. Obviously, not everybody gets to play football for their whole life. But it was a passion of mine, and I still coach today. So I coach for Gibbs High School up in Corrington. Coach not only football, but track also. Had a great time at the University of Tennessee after I earned my degree. Found a job. Wanted to get into the FBI because I thought, well, if you're going to join law enforcement, I'd get into the premier agency. I thought it was the premier agency, and then got lucky enough to meet our former sheriff in the back of the room back there, and he was kind enough to give me a job. And had a great time working at the department. Spent 17 years on patrol. So 17 years out on the streets, working my way through patrolman, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. Joined the SWAT team about 5 years in. Eventually came to SWAT team commander. And then after, in 2016, I went from patrol to the training division, where I trained all our officers, about 65% of the officers that are still there now, and then everybody for in-service every year. So got plenty of experience, know the sheriff's office in and out. I love Knox County. I love the people that work at the sheriff's office, and all I got is the best. I just want the best for them that I can give them.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see you guys tonight. My name is Michael Davis. I run for Knox County Sheriff. I was born and raised South Knoxville. Married to my wife, Elaine. We've been married for 30 years. I got 3 children. And my third grandchild, it's a daughter, third daughter, is going to be here in a few months. Like I said, I went to high school at Dole High School in South Knoxville. Attended and graduated from the University of Tennessee. I was hired at the Knox County Sheriff's Office, worked there for approximately 6 years. I started in corrections initially. I later became a post-certified deputy sheriff. Like I said, after about 6 years, and ironically, our sheriff was the lieutenant over training when I went through there. So after Knox County, I was hired as a federal agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration. After I graduated from the academy in Quantico, they sent me to New Orleans. I worked down in New Orleans for approximately six to 7 years. I was part of the MET team, mobile enforcement team, a special operation team that was deployed to various cities throughout the southeast region when the narcotics and the violence was off the charts. They would request a MET team deployment. So in these deployments, we worked with our federal, state, and local brothers and sisters combating the violence and crime in these cities such as Shreveport, Biloxi, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, New Orleans. I was all over the country during that period of time in the southeast. After, like I said, about 7 years in New Orleans, I came back home to Knoxville where I finished my career up after approximately 26 years. And once again, I established relationships with the various agencies, KPD, Knox County, Highway Patrol, FBI, TBI, all the alphabet agencies in eastern Tennessee. And collectively, we had a huge impact during my approximately 20 years here in Knox County. During that time, we seized millions of dollars worth of assets, whether it be, real property, vehicles, jewelry. We also seized millions of dollars worth of cocaine, meth, and heroin. And a lot of that heroin is coming down from Detroit, of course. Did wiretap cases, targeted individuals in Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Miami. The head of the snake in those cities supplying the poison to where we live here in Knox County. So a great impact working with our brother and sister agencies here in Knox County. And, I led those investigations, and they were multi-jurisdictional, meaning they encompassed several states. in orchestrating that dynamic with agents across the country. So in closing, glad to meet you tonight, and God bless you, and ask for your support. All right, thank you.
Yes, your turn.
Good evening, I'm David Amber. I am presently the Chief of Detectives at the Knox County Sheriff's Office, where I have served for the last 34 years consecutively. I was, a little bit about me personally, I was born and raised in West Knoxville up off of Middlebrook Pike. I've raised 2 children. My son Connor's out here in the audience, and I have a daughter, Ashton, and I have 5 grandchildren. So between the 2 of them, when I say I'm invested in our community, that goes for my personal life and as now serving as a chief of Knox County, wanting to be the sheriff of Knox County. I started out a little bit what got me interested in law enforcement. When I was a teenager, I worked at a Smoky Mountain Market that was down off Cedar Bluff Road that's no longer there, and worked the night shift. And back then, all this area looked a lot different back then. It was mostly just fields and pastures. That's about all there was to it. So we were one of the only places open at 24 hours. So a lot of the sheriff's deputies, that was their stop. If you ran the West Knoxville beat, that was the store you came into to get the great hot dogs and the rooster sandwich that we steamed there, and to get in out of the weather, drink some coffee, and maybe tell some more stories. And so I started listening to that and built relationships with them. People like our former sheriff in the back of the room was just a sergeant at the time on patrol, Bernie Line, who mentored me into law enforcement, and many other deputies that have risen through the ranks at the sheriff's office came there. I eventually started doing some ride-alongs with Bernie mostly, and that's what got me hooked in law enforcement. I like the challenges of it. I like the pace of it. Like most jobs, it has its good days and bad days, some that try you more than others. But I like the complexity of always being something being a little bit different being thrown at you. And most of all, I enjoyed being there to help people in their time of need. Because a lot of times people go through things that we're trained to go through. And even though we're humans also, we can definitely be the best thing that could happen to them in the worst moment of their life. So I really enjoyed that very much. So after Sheriff Hutchison took office in 90 and the end of 91, I went to work at the sheriff's office. And I started out in corrections. I served there for a couple of years before I was sent to Donaldson, where I got certified, and I came back and did long haul transportation for a while in the jail for about another 6 months. I went to patrol, and that was what I wanted to do, was chase and catch bad guys, and that was my main passion because that's what I had learned from these gentlemen hanging out there where I worked. So unfortunately though, that just shy of a year, the former sheriff came and asked me if I would be the first fleet manager. So I was kind of twisted about that, and I asked him if to please let me continue to do something law enforcement wise, since I had just trained and done all this, and that was my goal, and he did. So I started out in fleet, and that's what started giving me the experience of dealing with multi-million-dollar budgets within the sheriff's office and managing people. Even though I wasn't their direct supervisor as the fleet manager, I dealt with all of them. So at the same time, I started working on a special investigative task force, and that was the building block for my investigative experience that led me up to the point in the career in 2021 with Sheriff Spangler made me the chief of detectives at the sheriff's office. I served as the captain over the narcotics unit, and I've been attached to the narcotics unit almost my whole career, one shape, form, or fashion. It's just always been something that I've gravitated towards. So that's a little bit about my background on just little bullet points, what I've done across the agency, my diverse background, my ability and experience of dealing with our budget's $114,600,000 this year. And it's very complex, and $93 million of that goes to just our salaries and benefits. So really, when you look in the grand scope of things, that's not a lot of money to do everything else we do at the sheriff's office, including run the Roger D. Wilson Detention Facility, which is a huge part of the sheriff's responsibility. So I look forward to talking to you about some of the ideas that I want to do as your next sheriff, as far as bringing back some proactive stuff and doing the new technology coming to Knox County with the drones and things. I'd love to talk to you about that and tell you a little bit about what we're looking at and hear your input. So I look forward to talking to you, and I would hope that I can earn every one of your vote here on May the 5th. Thank you.
for you guys. Rather than ask all of you to answer all four of you answer the same question, we'll kind of pick two of you, and then the next two of you will pick come up with a question. So we'll start with David and Brent. So what specific change would you make in your first 100 days as a sheriff? Okay, we'll start with David.
First thing I want to do is reassess our deployment strategy and look at that. The main thing that I want to start on immediately, one of my main passions as a sheriff internally, is to start working on a defined career path for our men and women in the agency. That's a huge thing that the agency needs. All of us, the majority of us here have spent our adult life at the sheriff's office, and we're all aware of the shortcomings of our pay scale and the way it's set up, and the problems that it causes as far as morale and probate and promotions and things. We've had, the pension was the best thing that ever happened to us, but now that that's gone away, we've got to look at other ways to retain and attract new men and women to come serve Knox County. And so that'll be one of the biggest things I do after we reassess obviously our deployment strategies.
So is there not a clear path? You start as a patrolman and then you move up to this position and then captain, and is it?
Well, the problem is the pay steps now. We have a step thing that has 60-something steps in it now, and that's watered down the amount of those steps. Back for us that's been there for years, each step used to be a substantial step, but they watered it down to where it's only under $400 a step, I believe, is what it works out to be. And what you're talking about, the rank-wise, that's the thing. Many men and women find a passion within the sheriff's office, and that's what they want to stay with. They don't necessarily want the responsibilities to be a supervisor. They may love doing what they're doing. If somebody loves doing what they're doing, that passion's going to come out to the citizens of Knox County much more. So if they want to get a pay raise, we need to have a defined path that, like every 5 years, if you don't have serious disciplinary problems, you're going to get a raise that you and your family can count on, and it not be determined by, well, is county commission telling us they had a good sales tax year or a bad sales tax year or whatever, because everybody's vying for that pot of money. That figure would automatically be plugged in. The mayor's office and county commission and our financial leader can look at that, and that one's just there and it's set. Then we'll talk about what everybody else gets for the year. That way everybody can count on that career path as they go forward. If they want to excel and go to somewhere else or be in supervision, that's great. But at least we're showing the men and women that we care about what they do. They're out there risking their life every day, and they can count on being able to build their career so they can have better things for their family like we all want to do.
Okay, Brent, what would you do in your first 100
So
days?
not unlike David, I really want to concentrate on the people that actually work there and what their benefits actually are at the sheriff's office. I'm remiss about not mentioning my wife, my beautiful wife, in my introduction. And she worked at our department for 22 years, and now she works for the Suburban Police Department. And sadly, when she left to go over there, I got a $500 raise because her insurance was that much cheaper than it is at Knox County's. So there's a way to do that, and there's a way to try to make that work. And I want to try to make some of those things like insurance and benefits like continuing education. The city offers their employees an extra 7% for their degree. And then, make it easy for those people to actually get an education if they want that. But what we really need to do is sit down as a department and as a sheriff's office and figure out how to best field our troops in the field. All right, so we got enough coverage for these growing populations out here. We've done the same thing now for many years, and we got the same amount of people running in these heavy populations, and we got to sit down and figure that out so we can actually police the growing population in Knox County.
All right, next to BJJ and Frank. All right. How will you ensure transparency and accountability in the sheriff's office? Let's start with Mike.
First of all, I've lived that, okay? For 26 years as a federal agent, I had top secret security clearance during that period of time. I had a background check every 3 to 4 years, a full background check. So when you talk about transparency and integrity, those aren't just buzzwords for me. It's something that I lived and had to adhere to. all right, to those standards. Going forward, as your sheriff, that integrity and transparency through me will disseminate throughout the sheriff's office. And it's not only what I expect of myself, I expect that of the men and women of the Knox County Sheriff's Office, okay? And two, it's about communication. It's communication within the department. It's communication with the clergy, business professionals, people, homeowners associations in the community, and getting their feedback as to what their needs. Sometimes the needs vary from particular region within the county. So first of all, it's setting a standard. Secondly, it's communication, and encompassed within that is setting a strategic plan. Okay, so we have goals and a mission statement, and we have strategies to meet those goals in terms of what we expect of ourselves and our interaction with the public.
First of all, the Knox County Sheriff's Office is probably one of the most transparent law enforcement agencies anywhere in the state of Tennessee. As I said before in my introduction, we were the first ones to implement body-worn cameras. We were the first to give the media we had dash cameras, but we didn't have body-worn cameras. We were the first to give the media access to those body-worn cameras. We have checks and balances. Our financial people do a great job. We've got a great financial chief, and every time you turn around, there's an audit. The people of Knox County should be proud of the transparency that they have at the sheriff's office. They do a great job. And of course, you can always say you could be more transparent. And there are things that I guess if you look deeply, you could find something else. But as far as a law enforcement agency the size of Knox County, they're as transparent as possible.
Okay. So this one's for all of you. You see a lot in some of the bluer cities and states where local authorities refuse to work with the federal government. So is there a clear example of a situation that you have been in or have seen that you would not cooperate with the federal government law enforcement agency? JJ?
No.
Correct.
Not as far as operations go, but during COVID, those guys coming in and telling us how we're going to run and how we're going to enforce mandates, I'm not for that.
Okay, right.
We're going to cooperate with our brother agencies.
Okay.
100%. Any law enforcement agency, state, local, or federal, gets in a bind or gets in a dangerous situation and they need us, we're coming. We'll figure out the rest later on. But law enforcement has to maintain that line of backing each other.
Okay, next question's for JJ and Brent. What metrics are you going to use to measure success as a sheriff?
Well, what I would measure success with is how your people respond to how their job is. How happy are your people? Are your people able to take time with their family and not have to work side jobs? Are your people getting enough sleep at night? Are your people happy with their bosses? Are those men and women actually enjoying what they're doing for a living? I just tell you.
What is the attrition rate for the sheriff's department right now? It's right now I couldn't tell you. I hadn't been there 2 years, but I'm sure it's the same as it always is because it's a tough job. It is.
The training stuff. So we get them in. We hire them. Whether they're in the corrections division or not, or they come in straight off the street and go through the academy, and then after their 12-week academy, sometimes it turns into 14 to 16 weeks. After that's over, they got to go out to the street and then go through an FTO program. And so you're talking, you lose more than half the people most of the time. So we could have a full array of people, and then a 42-person academy comes through, and then you lose 20 of those right off the bat. Now you're down 20 people again. So, the attrition rate's high.
The last time I saw it was 3 out of every 10. 30%. It may be more than that now. I don't know.
Well, since you've been there before, how will your metrics going forward be different than when the metrics were when you were sheriff?
Well, the problem right now is that we're down officers. So
Down how many?
we're down 100, but we've got like 50 or 55 in the pipeline to be hired. So we're still down another 40 or 45, and that's just rough numbers. But it's not anybody's fault. It's not the administration's fault, the current administration. We went through COVID. We went through defund the police. We went through all these things. At one time, we were 200 officers down. So this administration has done good to bring these numbers back up. But what we're having to do is we're having to take from different divisions to put on a patrol division so our primary officers can answer patrol calls. When you all want somebody to come, you want somebody to come. And so we're having to take from schools, we're having to take from different other groups to make sure we have enough on patrol to answer calls. And we're doing better with that. We're doing better with that. But the first thing we have to do is we have to have a full complement of officers. The city police department, for the first time in years, is fully staffed. And we need to be too, so we can make sure that these other entities that we do are fully staffed as well.
Well, fully staffed now is not what it used to be. When I was hired in 1999, fully staffed was 1,200 people. Now we got just over 1,000.
Yeah.
So how do we go down in people, but yet population raises 30 to 35% in the last 25
Less people working now.
Yeah.
Less officers on the street now than there were in the 90s.
Right.
Okay, interesting. All right. So for you two gentlemen over there at the end, all right, what are your plans to help reduce violent crime and drug trafficking in Knox?
Let me take it. So Dave's always first. So. All right. Amber, go ahead.
That's what you get with the A. Yeah.
He's also first in the media, guy. So anyway, works a double-edged sword.
Well, you were in the DEA, so you should have something to say about that.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of my bread and butter for 26 years. Combating violent criminal drug networks and gangs. Okay, I did that for 26 years, not just in our county, but throughout the country. I've seized property in Hawaii, California. I've arrested people in New York, Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, Miami, and all those locations had a nexus to Knox County. They're shipping the poison in here. So although we may arrest a few people here and part of an organization in Knox County, the cell heads in these other cities just move over to another group in our county. So you have to go back up to the cell head and cut the head off of the snake to have a truly impactful outcome on that. We have Attorney General Sharm Allen said we had over 30 gangs in Knox County, and that goes hand in hand with the narcotic trafficking activity. Also, the secondary crimes that we see in our county, where there's even child neglect, traffic accidents, property theft, and secondary acts of violence, all stem through narcotics. Okay, and I have been a part of task forces, not just in Knox County, but throughout the country. And the best way, the most productive way to combat those type of organizations is a collective, working with federal, state, and local partners and trying to discern that network and identify that network, not just arresting a few people locally. But I've worked with FBI in Detroit, FBI in New York, and from that we were able to define that network through sharing of intelligence, and also with ICE. I've worked with our partners in ICE, and I have arrested cartel members in Knox County and seized millions of dollars and multiple hundreds of kilos of combination of fentanyl, heroin, and narcotics. So I know what that fight is, and I feel like I'm more qualified than anyone to carry that fight and protect the people of this county, okay? And without anything else said or mentioned, the most important issue that we're facing in this county is your safety and security, okay? That's our primary job as sheriff, all right?
All right.
So as I previously mentioned, I've spent a large portion of my career attached to the narcotics unit. And I think we have an excellent reputation under all three sheriffs that I've worked for over the 34 years of supporting the narcotics unit. And I think we have, last year we won the top narcotics division in the state of Tennessee, our unit did. And we were very proud of that because there was a lot of qualified people across the state when we went down to accept that award that had a lot of stuff. We did it with only 6 or 7 people on average. And we also, if any of you want to Google later on the 313 initiative, it has been that kind of partnership that we're speaking of, and that is using our local, state, and federal partners. And we've been very successful for it. And if you don't know what 313 is, the area code for Detroit, Michigan, and that's probably where 65–70% of our drugs coming into Knox County are coming from. They usually either come up through the cartel, through Atlanta to us, if it's methamphetamines and everything, and Detroit's bringing anything they can to us. Mostly they are the largest of the fentanyl that's coming down here that are killing so many people. So we need to continue with what we're going on here, and the drug world touches just about a lot of these other proactive divisions that I'm talking about. Our organized retail crime shoplifting, if you've heard it referred to, task force, that involves narcotics. The gangs involve narcotics. The narcotics touches so many things that we do here at the sheriff's office. I spent 2 hours today with the brand new director of the DEA, came in town, and we met with local law enforcement, Sheriff Barong, some other sheriffs around the region, and we all had very good conversation about that. We feel very thankful for where we're at in this region right now, the cooperation between all law enforcement officers. And now under President Trump, from what we got from him today, we were really excited to hear it as law enforcement, because he really laid down the law that things were going to be done different, and that we were going to target the cartels and everything over this fentanyl, that they were going to give us the support, and that they wanted to work with all of us, including their federal partners. And that's one of the first times in my 34 years I've heard that kind of strong language that we were going to cooperate together coming out of Washington, D.C. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's good for all of us and what it does for our community and how we protect you all.
Can I say one thing about that? We've always cooperated, okay, as a federal agent. We've always cooperated with the locals and state agencies, because we have to have that network and sharing of intelligence, okay? And with the influx of 10 to 15 million people coming across the border, we had defined networks of trafficking when I first started with DEA. Now it's a convoluted nightmare of pathways for trafficking. Normally the dope comes up and the money goes down, but now dope is coming from Detroit and New York. Okay, so it's hard to strategically target these organizations with this massive influx of immigration.
Well, along the same lines, though, with the border being closed, as the president has done, that has deterred some drugs from coming into the country. So how is it getting to Detroit to come to us if it's not coming? I mean, they just used people as pack mules, you know, when the border was open.
Yeah, well, let me touch upon something that a lot of people don't fully appreciate. You know, when we had the influx of thousands of Chinese immigrants come across the border, you know, it's like, what are all these Chinese nationals coming across the border? Okay, a large element of those immigrants are working marijuana fields out in California. Okay, there's like miles of marijuana fields, and they're immaculate. Okay, and ICE has went out there to try to stop that. The money cultivated from those pot fields by the Chinese is going back to the CCP in China. Okay, 20 years ago, China didn't have aircraft carriers. They do now, and a large element of the funds derived from that is through narcotic trafficking in the United States. They also purchase land in our country, the Chinese government, through the narcotics, the marijuana that's cultivated in California. So people don't fully appreciate what we are. It's really a terrorist act, the narcotic trafficking going on in our country.
What do you think, JJ?
Well, you know, just because you say the border's closed doesn't mean that drugs are still not coming across. These people have been doing this for hundreds of years. They have very ingenious ways of doing it. They bring it across in 18-wheelers. They bring it across in cars. Just because the border is closed doesn't mean that we've shut down the drugs. We also have the northern border. We see a lot more coming in from Canada than we used to when we started shutting down the southern border. They just moved to these people are very, very resourceful. And they're very intelligent. You'd think if they would use this to be productive citizens, what more we could have. But they come up with some ingenious ways to make sure drugs get in here. So, just like Mike said, you don't realize what's going on and where we've got. And that's one thing that we've always had in Knox County from the time I was there to now, is we've always cooperated with our state and federal agents. Sometimes we have disagreements, but that's going to happen. but we've always cooperated with them, and when law enforcement agencies cooperate, it's a bad day for the dirt bank. So we've always done that.
Okay, Brent, with I-40 and 75 being such major interstates, Knoxville had become known at one point as the hub of human trafficking. So what plans do you have to help combat human trafficking?
So human trafficking, just like anything else, I started out on a DUI team, and we also ran with an interdiction team. And if you weren't catching drugs or drunk drivers, you were running into something. And we have to have those dedicated teams that are on the interstate, stopping cars, and are funded. They're self-funded because you're going to make a ton of money because there's drugs coming up and down 40, going to 81, 75. So we need to up our extracurricular on the interstates and do our due diligence in getting those interdiction teams and those DUI teams. And then, just like Mike said, we're partners with every federal agency around here, and they got great information. I've served warrants for just about every federal agency that we have here in Knoxville, being on the SWAT team for 20 years. So we have great partnerships. A lot of times they know about it before it ever even gets into town. So our SWAT team will be deployed and waiting on somebody to pass through, and we can take those people down. So, having the manpower to actually go out there and protect our really the United States, because they're just passing through most of the time. I'm not saying we don't have human trafficking here. We got plenty of cases of that, but we got to catch them right coming through here too. And it's the same with drugs. You've got to catch them, and you got to have the manpower out there to actually do so.
Okay, David, what do you think?
Well, from the beginning of my platform, that's one of the things one of my 2 points that I want to concentrate on. One of those two was the criminal interdiction teams, what I want to call it. We did previously refer to it as highway interdiction, and that's where a lot of it is. But here again, when you start looking at narcotics trafficking and all this trafficking, you find the common links that it goes to several different divisions within the agency. So that's been one of my platform points, is that I want to bring back a criminal interdiction unit that will both look for those elements on the interstate physically and also in other elements that they prey on people. We are here at the intersection in Knoxville, and so while that attracts some business people here, unfortunately that attracts the drug trafficking, human trafficking, weapon smuggling, and the other scams that come from some of our other larger states around us. Different fraud schemes and everything. Those people travel through our area, so we want to get a little bit more aggressive about stopping the ones that are coming through. We also want to, at the same time, identify and target the ones that are trying to use Knoxville's geographical location to take advantage of and set up shop here. So we want to target them and use these same relationships that we're talking about to take them off the board and hopefully use some of the federal statutes to hold them in jail for longer than some of our state statutes do at times.
Okay.
Can I touch upon that real quick?
Yeah.
Human trafficking and narcotic trafficking, it's hand in hand. These cartel members in Mexico, they're not just saying, okay, we're going to traffic dope here and human element here. It's hand in hand. I've even seen through intel bulletins, some of the people that they traffic will ingest the narcotics, where the narcotics are inside, their abdomen, or they're secreted up in them as a way to thwart law enforcement. Okay, so it's not, they're doing both, all right, and children. They're even having children as mules to bring in the narcotics. Right?
Okay. School safety is always a big issue, and have you guys seen anywhere in the Sheriff's Department more or less like a checklist that somebody goes around to all of our public schools and shows the weak points where they're subject to being attacked? I mean, we always hope that that's never going to happen here, but then every time there's a school shooting or an outsider, not a high schooler shooting somebody, but like in the Austin East situation, where there was the boy shot in the bathroom. All right, he went out a door that was not monitored by anybody, and then brought a handgun into the school, bypassing whatever security system we had. So do you see a way for the sheriff's department to work with each individual school, show them the weak spot? I know when I was at the state level, we spent a lot of money trying to harden schools, but there's just so much hardening you can do. And a lot of times it's just teaching people, hey, don't leave this door open. Hey, don't do this stupid thing. You know, because it's kind of an innocent thing, but I think as the sheriff, you need to guide the schools, because it's better to go on the proactive side than after the shooting, and when we find out, oh, well, there was this mistake. What do you think, David?
So some of the challenges about school safety that affects all of us, from the Knox County schools, their resource officers, our deputy on the scene, and then us as a sheriff's office, because you have all those layers. I presently, one of the things I'm in charge of as chief of detectives is the juvenile detective unit, and they respond to those threats. And so, you've got some challenges there that if you go out to some of those responses and you start paying attention, there's a lot of complicated things, because yes, we've tried to harden the schools and stuff, but you got to remember, some of these schools are very old and outdated. So we've got a range of facilities. We have some new ones that have different things built into them to keep the school safe. And you also have to find that middle spot of, when you fortify the school, you also got to make sure that all your law enforcement and school people are working together to make sure we can get access to it in one of these moments. We've got to be able to get quickly inside the school to neutralize a threat. So there's a lot of challenging aspects to that. Everything from egress to, layouts of the schools that we need to have access to. I think we work very well together. The governor, 2 years ago, set aside a lot of money for law enforcement, and a lot of it was very well tapped towards school safety. And what he did was, he's now assigned the troopers to assist us. They come on scene now if we have a serious incident or threat at one of our schools. They respond, but they don't come in the inner circle. They are there as a force multiplier for us. And what I mean by that is they do the perimeter. They control the roads in and out. If we have to have ambulances or other emergency equipment or SWAT getting there, they're going to control that for us. Then he funneled money to the Homeland Security branch, and he has a lot of retired officers that are working now for Homeland Security that we work with all the time. They respond to the scene. They also assist us as our juvenile detectives and any other detectives, if it involves major crimes, are there. They assist us, and that's working well. And one of the things I did as administrator, part of this administration, was I created a signal group that we could all communicate on. Because one of the things that I identified going to these was still we lack radio communication and the human element of those delays. And we've all seen the bad situations across the country where these school shootings have had, and when they went back and armchair quarterbacked it, a lot of it was delay. And did this agency do the right thing? Did the individual officers do the right thing? So we're concentrating on looking at those weak spots, as you said. And so I developed this communication group. It's just simply a phone app. But when we get it, instead of waiting on dispatch, all those partners are talking to each other and with the school. So they know which one of us are coming. They can give us live updates as to, hey, we just think this is a threat. It's a right on the bathroom wall. It's not a package laying here by a locker. So those are the things we're already working on at the sheriff's office, and that I just want to continue building on.
Hey, Brett?
So a security site assessment, we do that for the schools. I was actually assigned to the schools my last year of employment at the sheriff's office. They wanted to bring a tactical force to the schools, so I took it upon myself. But the schools Knox County had already started doing that. So I heard David mention about the radios not getting out. I think it's over 80% of the schools now have a repeater in the school. So our radios do actually work in the schools now. So we actually do have good communications. And it's not only for our radios, but the school security radios also. And everybody's going to understand that there's a school security person armed at every school. And the state pays us to have an officer in every school. We've not quite got every school covered yet, from my understanding. We only had about 24 schools covered when I left. So not only do sites surveys and
just real quick, I had understood at one time that Carnes Elementary and Middle School shared a resource officer, but to get from one facility to the other, you had to go across the highway.
You're talking about a SRO,
Yes.
sheriffs, yeah, and they probably still do right now.
It's still like 10. Yeah. Still like 10, basically having one at every school.
Okay.
So we are funded by the government. Why we haven't got extra actual spots, employment spots, so we can replace those and keep those 43 actually in schools, because the government, Governor Lee actually gave us $85,000 apiece for each one of those officers, and that not only pays their salary but their benefits and everything else too. So that would allow us, and I think what we're working on now is making sure it's a reoccurring payment, so it pays for the life, so we don't put somebody in there and then have to actually get rid of some spots. So not only site surveys, but as I was on the SWAT team, we trained in every school just about every summer, just so the officers around there would know. But we also have on our computers at all time, you can always bring up the layout of every school. We got it all on there. So we've been ahead of the game for quite some time. And Knox County does a great job of teaching their teachers, hey, listen, you can't prop doors open. These have got to remain locked. These doors are the egress doors. These doors are the ones that we're going to buzz people in and things like that.
Okay, JJ?
Well, you got to remember, we've come a long ways, like both of these guys said. It wasn't too long ago that we didn't have officers in school. Right. Sheriff Hutchison implemented the officers in schools, and we've done a good job with that. You also have to understand that there's frictions between every faction. And in the schools, the principal is the key. So the principal makes all the decisions in the schools. So we have to work closely with them. Sometimes our objective is not their objective. So everybody has to play fairly and together. But you have to remember also, we talked about it earlier, we've had to take officers from schools to put on patrol. So now, the last time I looked at it, we were 12 officers down in schools. That we should have 12 more than we have. And some officers have 3 schools. And that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable, period. There should be at least one officer in every school. And it's like we said, we've done a great job about training in the schools. We've done a great job with training with the school security people. We've got outlays of all the schools, hallways. We can find anything. We've come a really long way. But we need to keep the pace up, because we're not where we need to be. When you drop your kids off in the morning at school, the last thing you should have to think about is whether or not they're going to be safe and they're going to come home to you that afternoon. You should never have to think about that. That's our responsibility, and we'll make sure that happens.
Right?
You know, I live near Southwell High School, and I've been able to see over the last few years some of the site survey and the implementation of security measures at the school, such as fencing, chain link fencing, board fencing, to create checkpoints going into the school area. Also, we've got video surveillance now on the schools that, you know, obviously wasn't there when I was in school. So we've got that. We've also had training with our teachers and threat assessment and what to look out for within the student body, so you can maybe circumvent something before it becomes a problem. You know, also with our school resource officers and our school officers that are in patrol, you know, MARC units there at the school, you know, having the collective of active shooter training, so they can work, you know, whether it's 3 to 5 officers at that school, they can work as a unit. You know, oftentimes, you know, SWAT or a specialized unit will respond to the school, but the time delay before they can get there means, you know, can be disastrous. So that's shifted over the last, you know, 20, 25 years from holding a perimeter and waiting for SWAT to get there to, you know, whatever officer there is there on premises to engage, okay, whatever that number may be. So we need to have that collective training with the officers assigned at a particular school. We also need to get feedback. It's all about communication from the principals, from the teachers, from the officers that work there at those schools, what they may view as possible threats, and how we can tighten and lock down the perimeter if in the event that something does happen.
Yeah, 'cause I remember hearing the story about Uvalde, Texas. It was about 45 minutes before they were able to get into the building. And that
Yeah,
was,
that's
That was a long
all the
time.
time, but that's
Yeah.
inexcusable. You have to do what you can.
yeah. All right, let's move on. I'll ask two of you a question about homelessness and two of you a question about mental health. So, what would you like, JJ?
I've heard them all. I've heard them all, so you can get any one of them. We
All right,
are.
we'll let you do the mental health question here. What role should the sheriff's office play in mental health?
Well, when you said homeless and mental health, you have to realize.
They're interconnected.
Yeah, that about 85% of the people that are homeless have some type of mental issue. And when Lakeshore shut down, they promised us that $27 million was going to come to our community. Well, I guess y'all can know how much came to our community. Goose egg. So nobody got better. They just got turned out. And they went two places, to the Knox County Detention Facility or to the graveyard. That's where these people went. So now we have these people in our facility, and it's the largest mental health facility east of the Mississippi River. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us. It's not fair for someone who has a mental illness to be locked up in jail, and it's not fair for the taxpayers to have to foot that bill. And the bill is astronomical. Some of these psychotropic drugs and things they take, the price is unreal. Years and years ago, we were spending $500,000 just on psychotropic drugs. I would be scared to know what that is now. So it's certainly an issue that we got to have help, but there's got to be a place. We have to have a facility, and everybody's talking about building another facility in Blount County or Knox County or something, but we have to have a facility for these people because jail is not the place they need to be.
Okay, David?
Well, the thing I always, when we get asked this question, just about every group we go to, to build on what JJ's saying, the other factors you have to look at is that, number one, they are intertwined greatly, but you've got to look at the trickle-down effect of what all's going on. The state gave us some money. We've got a small B hut up off of Western Avenue, but it's like 15, 16 beds, I believe, and there's very strict conditions of what goes on there, or who can go there, excuse me. So, the situation's very complicated because we as law enforcement, we can't arrest that problem away. That's what I always, speak on, because you're not going to remove that. It's only a temporary Band-Aid. If somebody is homeless and they have a mental issue, that's a compounded problem. And even if they do break a law that we act as law enforcement and take them to our facility, we're not really supposed to be the mental health facility. So once they're, and with jail overcrowding and everything else going on right now, those people are going to roll right back out. Okay, and to answer JJ's question, we're probably going to be $175 million just for the medications next year. So it's a huge part of the cost of our facility. And so, until the state legislator answers to all of our complaints, both of those elements could have a big chunk taken out of them, but it's going to take our state legislators and or help from the federal government to spend I've heard the projection of $100 to $150 million to build a regional facility here for all the agencies to use it for these people to get. But we would solve so many other problems. We would cut down on the homelessness. We would cut down on a lot of these things that are costing other agencies things and combine it, and they would get the best help they could versus at our facility or at CARM or one of the other places that a lot of them end up at.
Okay. So Mike, how do you balance law enforcement and their duties with social services and compassion for the homeless?
Well, I do have compassion. I'm a Christian. I have compassion for the homeless. And I want to elevate their quality of life, okay? But it's not a crime to be homeless. But the rights of the homeless do not supersede the rights of the taxpayers in this county, all right? And oftentimes, when they commit a crime, we've got Veterans Court, Mental Health Court, and Drug Court that we can funnel these people to get the help that they need. I've toured the facilities on Broadway, which, Broadway is a nightmare, and I don't understand that dynamic. But I've toured CARM, Salvation Army, and I've seen that CARM has some good programs there where they have a case file on each person that's in CARM in terms of their possible treatment or their possible needs, and medical. They also have a medical staff there at CARM. So that is helping those people. But it's a three-headed monster in terms of mental issues through narcotics, just straight mental issues, and then the homeless. It's a collective that we have to address. And these shanty towns that butt up to subdivisions in the community. When I'm sheriff, we're not going to have those. We're going to seek treatment and help for those people. And that's what we need to do, is elevate those people.
Yeah, great. What do you think?
So homeless, it's a huge issue, and it's getting bigger even in the county. So the unsanitary living environments that they create, and just the pure the litter and the nastiness that goes on in some of those camps, we have to police those up. But let's not forget that all these homeless people came from somewhere. Where did they come from? And they're trying to tell us there are homeless people. But why do homeless people come to Knoxville? Because we take care of them. Because Knoxville's a great place. We got great people here, and we got a lot of sympathy here in Knox County, and we do take care of our own. But the problem is that they're taking away from the true homeless, and that's the single mother that's down on her luck with her 2 kids, and they're living in their car, in the parking lot of a gym somewhere that they got that they have a membership to, so they can bathe their children to take them to school. That's where we should be spending our money and concentrating for the homeless.
Okay, we're going to ask one more question, and then we're going to open it up to you guys, so y'all be thinking about what kind of questions you want. This last question's on immigration, okay? First of all, how many current immigrants are in the Knox County detention facility? How are you funded with that? And then how do you plan to change that? We'll start with JJ.
Well, we have a contract with ICE to keep immigrants in the Knox County Jail. Currently, and these numbers I give you, I'm giving you estimates. Currently, the contract is that they pay Knox County $114 a day for every prisoner that we keep for them. They're usually pretty good. They come and pick these people up within 2 or 3 days. They'll send 2 or 3 buses every week to pick them up. On the other hand, the state of Tennessee pays us $45 a day. So, and it's cheaper to keep these illegal immigrants because they only stay a short period of time. So, roughly $110 to keep them. So we're actually making about $4 a head on every one that we're keeping. Now the state prisoners that we're keeping at $45 a day, it costs more like about $150 a day to keep them because they're getting physicals, they're getting medical treatment, they're getting prescription drugs, they're getting all this other stuff. So actually the federal government is doing a good job with the illegal immigrants. And then again, we've talked about the task force. I've already talked about all that, but there's a different process that we have to maintain, and we have to keep control as the sheriff and the Knox County Sheriff's Office. We don't need ICE in a task force with us. We need our people trained and our people doing the job, where the sheriff maintains control over what happens in our community and it doesn't get out of hand. We've seen that in some of these other cities where it's gotten out of hand. We maintain control over what happens in Knox County. And you all should insist on that. We ought to be the ones that are making sure what's going on in our county, not somebody else coming in from out of town.
Britt?
Yeah, so to echo what JJ said, we should police our county, but first and foremost, it should be about the safety of our citizens first, prior to any of that. To go to the jail situation, I don't know how many currently is in there, but I know the number of people range so greatly that it does take a lot of space away from our already current full jail, so I think it's 800 is what it's designed to hold, but 1,200 is what we kind of have, and, including everybody. So not only that, but it takes a lot of manpower, effort, and time to take care of those people while we're waiting on the ICE bus to come and get them. So it's compensation's good, but we'd rather probably have the room.
Hey, what do you think, Mike?
There's kind of a misnomer about ICE. I've worked with ICE and going after cartel members in Knox County and have arrested those people and conducted search warrants and federal complaints on those people. We have to work with ICE. Okay, ICE will not allow the Knox County Sheriff's Office to be under the umbrella of ICE and have full autonomy. Knox County, separate from ICE. Okay, and I'm not saying if there's a plant or an area where there's multiple or several illegals working in terms of it's an ICE operation and they go through there and they get 50, 100 illegals, that's an ICE operation. But we are there in conjunction with supporting them, okay? In terms of violent, criminal, illegal aliens, pedophiles, murderers, ag assaults in Knox County, we have to be under that umbrella and work with ICE to gather and garner that intelligence information, okay? These people that are illegal in East Tennessee they weren't born here. They have networks throughout the country, okay? So we have to cultivate and maintain that intelligence with ICE, okay? ICE is not going to say, Knox County Sheriff's Department, you guys are ICE agents, God bless you and good luck, okay? That's not how a task force works. Just like when Knox County Sheriff's Office and Knoxville Police Department or the Highway Patrol works with DEA, they're task force agents with DEA and have DEA arrest powers, but they fall under the umbrella of DEA, okay? And so, and the agents that work, federal agents that work here in Knox County, this is our home. This is where we live. So we want to have that communication. I'm for the jail model, which currently that we have. I'm also for the task force model in terms of, to get our guys sworn in so they can be proactive. But you have to have, with all law enforcement, you have to have that working relationship. And I've seen it work firsthand and have done it for approximately 26 years. So I know the impact of working in a collective versus, single agency. It just doesn't work. Right?
So this is why it's important and such a hard choice for you all to decide who's your next sheriff. Because these are the kind of decisions we've talked about tonight that which either one of us is fortunate enough to become the next sheriff of Knox County. This is the diversity that it requires to be the sheriff. Because you have so many different tough decisions that there is no, we as citizens or we as administrators, sometimes there's not just an overwhelmingly instantaneous solution for the problem. Every problem you look at in our community, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the mental health, whether it's what the local law enforcement's doing, whether it's immigration, all of these, if you truly start digging down layer by layer, because everything we do in life, right, has a trickle-down effect, right? I mean, the way we discipline our children or anything, there's a trickle-down effect. Whether it's monetary or it's physical, there's something that trickles down from that. So when we look at these tough issues like this, and some people get emotional about them and everything else, well, to be your leader as a sheriff, we've got to take that emotional out of that. As your sheriff, we have to make tough decisions that we think are going to best protect the citizens of Knox County. And that's why not one of these models and why each one of us just barely vary a little bit as far as which immigration model we should go for next. And I think the responsible thing is any of us as a candidate, and what I take the responsibility of, is that's why one of my first things when you ask what I'm going to do the first 100 days is to reassess our deployment strategy. Look where we're at. Our numbers have changed drastically. We got all the way down in the 800s. Now we're back up to 1,081 employees. We're still not back up wholly, but we're getting close. So now it's time to reassess and set these priorities, especially while we're changing administration. And we have to look at these tough issues in our community. And immigration is one of them. ICE, their job every day is to look for illegal immigrants, right? That's their primary concern. Our paths are going to cross as law enforcement. Sitting in the sheriff's seat, your primary your primary commitment to the citizens of Knox County is to keep our community safe. And at some point, that's going to mean arresting illegal aliens, okay? But we also have to make sure that we're keeping the correct balance as law enforcement, and that we're making sure those calls for service every day, when you call and somebody's kicking your door in, or can be something as simple as a barking dog, you expect us to come and for that call of service and take care of you one way or the other. So we've got to be responsible in how we do that. The jail is one of those things that I talk about, the trickle-down effect. The federal inmates are usually only there 72 hours, and they're pretty good at it, at getting to that. The state, not so much. They're there a whole lot longer. We don't have that with them, and we're still working on that. But we teeter-totter on being over our cap limits at our facilities right now. There's 2,400 people on ankle monitors in Knox County right now to try to cut down on that overcrowding. So those issues are deep, and that's where we have to make some tough decisions and listen to the community. What's most important to you all also. Thank you.
Let me add one other thing. It's not about law enforcement competing with each other. Okay? That's not what it's about. It's about protecting the people of Knox County. Okay? And so that's why I say we work as a collective in law enforcement in terms of with ICE. It's not that ICE is calling the shots over Knox County. We're working together because it's about your safety, not agencies. Okay? Not competitive agencies.
Okay, now we're going to open it up to the floor. If you have a question for either a candidate or all the candidates, one, speak clearly so they can hear you up at the front, and two, address which candidate you want to. So Mr. Mike over here wants to be first. Go ahead, Mike.
This would be all four. I've seen over the years situations where someone to pull out, one officer was called because someone was being threatened with a knife, and the person with the knife obviously had mental problems. But when he then attacked a woman standing by, the officer shot him and killed him. And there was a big hoorah about that. Now, what would your position be for Knox County deputies if they were in that situation?
Well, I think can I go first?
Sure.
You're on this end? I mean,
Should be the same.
it worked today. That's the first time. I appreciate it. There we go. So, that's one of the toughest things about being in law enforcement is making life's split-second decisions about life. And in today's society with the body camera, the body camera is a great tool, and 98% of the time it's going to protect our men and women that are doing their job professionally. But it also allows people, though, to look at that body camera and pause it, back it up, that video that they get from some source, and they get to judge over and over again about what we did, whether it was excessive or whether it was professional or it was balanced. And so that's the tough part about being sheriff, is to make sure that we train our men and women. So many people want us to de-escalate. And that's the thing that we tell them from law enforcement. Of course, our goal should be to de-escalate. But sometimes, whether it's a mental illness or somebody just has lost their cool or somebody's just a bad, evil person, if they snap, that officer has literally a split second to make that decision to protect him or herself or somebody standing nearby, and take that lethal action. And obviously, as the sheriff, the men and women under us, we should properly train them, and we should properly stand behind them when they get in that situation, even if it's not popular with certain parts of the community that thought that it was excessive. The proof has to speak for itself. The proof, if we did our training right and the officer followed his or her training, and they indeed acted in defense of their life or somebody else's, that's got to be the standard, and that's got to play out every time through every individual confrontation like that. And that's where you hope that you can do all the de-escalating. But sometimes there's no time for de-escalation. It just happens, and you have to react.
Regarding being, circumventing someone that's come at you with a knife, I've dealt with people and been involved in struggles with people with knives, screwdrivers, and a lot of that has been the homeless people. And so, you pray to God that He gives you strength and wisdom every day that you go to work to meet those challenges. And you rely on your training and your experience. over many years. So when these situations do arise, Lord willing, you make the correct decision. Okay, and it's tragic sometimes when these events occur and there's someone gravely injured, or there's loss of life. But our job is to protect the people, the citizens of Knox County. Okay, first and foremost, and it's about experience and your training, and you also there's also less lethal options. Okay, pepper spray, a taser. Okay, but in close proximity to someone with a knife, they can act quicker than you can react to the situation, and with a knife, it can be lethal in just seconds. All right, so you have to make that assessment, and God bless you when you do. Okay.
Yes, I don't think anything's wrong with anything that they said about the use of force. Deadly force is an unfortunate thing, but not only does problems with the guy that we shoot and his family, but the officer that has to take that person's life. We need to do a better job as a community, and I'm talking about law enforcement as a whole all over the country, in making sure our officers have the best opportunities presented to them to get better from that deadly force incident, so they can have therapy, and we don't chastise them or make them come to work too soon or any of that stuff. It's a tight-knit community, but we all got type A personalities, and we all want to be the tough guy in the room. But there's a time where you have to take our officers' mental health into consideration.
3 great answers. The only thing I would say is you have to revert back to training. You have to hope that the officer has been trained and understands what his options are. Less lethal force, whatever they are. I never did like it when someone said, well, his life really wasn't in jeopardy. Well, that's not their call. Only you know when you're in danger. You know when you're in danger, and you know when it's time to react. And that's what we have to have with these officers. They know when it's time to react, and they do an excellent job.
Okay. Should have been right there.
Yes.
So I'm an undecided voter, so this is for all of you. What I would like to hear is, what will you bring to the sheriff's office that is unique and separates you from the other candidates? All right, we'll start with JJ.
I think we ought to start with Amber. No, really. That's I've been asked that question several times, and it's a good question. But and I've said it before. You see these 4 people up here. It's very unusual. Number one, that you have 4 candidates. It's also very unusual that you have 4 candidates that have this type of experience. Everybody up here wants this job, but they don't want it because it's a job. They want it because that's what they've done all their life. And so I think we all bring a unique perspective to things, but when you talk about uniqueness and what you do, we've had to build. I was at the sheriff's office for 36 years. I had to build on what the sheriff before me did. And I was lucky that I had a good sheriff. And 2 of these guys that worked for me, I promoted both of them multiple times. I know that they can do the job. Any one of these 4 candidates up here will make a great Knox County sheriff, and that's why it's so hard for you all. You all have to do your homework and decide which one of these 4 people you want. So that's a good question, but I'm not really sure I know how to give you any more of an answer than I can give you.
All right, Mike, what about you? What makes you unique? What makes Mike unique?
What makes Mike unique? Well, talk to my wife. What makes me unique? Well, for one, my experience, the diversity of my experience, the background. I've worked all over the country with task forces, so I think that's. I've led and directed. I probably, I was thinking the other day, I've probably conducted over 1,000 operational plans in a 26-year period, from everything from search warrants, arrests, surveillance. So just the totality of my experiencing combating violent narcotic traffickers and gang activity. Secondly, I'm going to be a unifier. I feel like right now the sheriff's office is fractured. There's multiple factions, obviously, with 4 people. I'm going to unify the sheriff's office, and I'm going to promote and look at people going up the ladder based on merit. Also, with my experience, I think I will add, since I'm outside of that bubble, I'll add more discernment and objectivity. Because of my experience, I'm not a part of any faction, with either inside the sheriff's office or outside the sheriff's office. Okay, and it's a passion for me. It's a passion for everyone up here, and it's a calling for me. And I believe it's a calling for everyone up here. But that's just a few of the things that I think separate me, and the fact what I had to adhere to with 26 years of top secret security clearance and maintaining that. And multiple background checks during that period of time.
Brent?
So, the majority of my platform's around community engagement. The better you know your community, not just the community as a whole, but each individual community. So, I'm big into my community. I live in the Corrington area. My kids, my 2 beautiful daughters back here, they both graduated from Gibbs High School. One goes through UT now. She's graduating this semester in chemical engineering. The other one's in nursing school at Carson Newman. But not only the people that go to those high schools that I coach at and coach track and football at, but getting to know those people that you meet on patrol and having relationships with those people. Patrol officers stopping, playing basketball with the kids. As corny as it may sound, man, you win hearts and minds and get the trust of the community, and those people actually will call you and tell you what's going on, because there's nobody else better to know what's going on in their community besides them. So we got to get back to boots on the ground, people out there interacting, and we got to get enough officers on the street so we can actually do the job correctly.
Okay. What makes you unique, sir?
Well, first of all, I want to say something, because this is the first time I've grown up in the sheriff's office, and so have these gentlemen, and Mike at the DEA. So, with that being said, this is the first time that I've ever had 4 opponents or been part of that. And I'm proud of the fact of how all of us have tried to keep a professional dialogue with each other. Obviously, each one of us, we're human beings. So while we share the camaraderie of the fact that we grew up in law enforcement, we do have different management styles, and then some things we see dead eye to eye on. So that's what kind of makes it tough for you. What are you looking for in the uniqueness? What I humbly try to put forward to is not that I want to talk about I've ran a clean campaign. I don't want to say, obviously there's things that they disagree with that I do and vice versa, but the other things we agree on. But that's not the point right now. The point is to be professional and to show you all as the citizens of Knox County what is unique about our leadership. What is it that you want for the sheriff's office as it moves forward in law enforcement in your community? And so I choose to focus on that exact thing humbly. And it's not natural for me. I don't like selling myself per se, but that is this process. And so my uniqueness, as I feel, is number one, I'm still at the agency. I've been there 34 years consecutively, and not that these gentlemen didn't have the right to retire and enjoy their pension. I'm still there, though. I'm up to date with what's going on in the agency, the things that all 3 of the sheriffs before me have done that I want to build on the positive things, and the own unique perspectives that I've gained over the 34 years of experience moving forward. And I think we are definitely moving into a new generation here in Knox County as far as what the new sheriff, besides all the managerial things we've talked about, is also the role with our infrastructure and our growing community. So while I feel like I'm unique is that my diverse background. We've all had kind of different ways of our background and how we grew up in law enforcement. And I've been very fortunate to be given the opportunities that I have, and I've worked very hard in each one of those. And each sheriff has promoted me throughout my career, and so hopefully that tells all of you that I was doing my job right. And I want to continue to do that, and I want to usher in the new generation that's coming online in all of our places, restaurants, law enforcement, whatever. And to be a good steward, we got to teach them what it is in law enforcement and what the community wants, and help work together to make those mesh. And my diverse background, especially with the $100 million budgets, is another thing that's important. Right now, I oversee 12 of the 17 divisions in the sheriff's office that I touch my hands on and that I manage and support the men and women that are doing the day-to-day operations. And I want to continue to do that. I want to lead our sheriff's office into the next generation of law enforcement, both as the young men and women that are coming and also the technology that we're about to see here in Knox County. And that's why I feel I humbly can stand here and ask for your support to be your next sheriff.
Okay, all the way in the back. There's a gentleman with the hat on.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Stephen Sams. I am a former deputy sheriff, but not anywhere near here. I have a question for you. I also come from the military world, and one of the things that we love is we love when our commanders are out there fighting with us. Will you gentlemen make a commitment to be out there, seeing your guys and being with your guys and engaging not with just the community, but also with the deputies on the roads?
If I get to go first again, or are we going out of that? You're the moderator.
So listen, it's an easy answer. Listen, my whole adult life, I've been a cop, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. And the opportunity arose a couple of years ago when I could retire to actually run for sheriff and get to leave my stamp on some of the things that I believe is important. And I'd absolutely stand toe-to-toe. I'd never ask any of my deputies to do anything I wouldn't do myself.
All right, JJ?
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. Of course, I started at the sheriff's office when I was 21 years and 3 months old. You had to be 21 back then, and that's all I've done my entire life is be a policeman. And I've enjoyed retirement, but I missed being a policeman. And that's why I'm coming back to run again. And I certainly would be out there each and every day with the men and women of the sheriff's office. People don't understand about law enforcement in Knox County. Y'all should be very proud of the law enforcement that y'all have in Knox County. These men and women work very hard. They're highly trained. It's a tough job. And you should be proud. You should be proud every day when you see one out there because they do a heck of a job.
Mike?
Without a doubt, the men and women put on the line every day for Knox County Sheriff's Office. As your sheriff, I'll be right there with them. As a retired agent, I still am going to court on cases that I've done 2 or 3 years ago. I'm a non-paid agent. I had a trial last year and 3 hearings, and I've got another trial pending. So it takes some period of time to get some of these things adjudicated. So I'm still working and still a part of stopping the violence and crime in our community. And that's what I did for 26 years. Not just writing the affidavits for search warrants and federal complaints and state and federal complaints, wiretap affidavits. I had written that, and then I have went through the doors on countless occasions with our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. So without a doubt, I'll be right there with them.
Okay, David?
I accept the responsibility that I have to sit behind a desk at times as a chief. I know in order to support my men and women that I'm responsible for, that requires me to be at that desk, and that requires me to be in meetings and everything. With that being said, if you ask a lot of the deputies at the sheriff's office or even outside that know me over the years, and they'll tell you plenty of stories of me being out at 2 o'clock in the morning backing somebody up on a traffic stop. And I don't go there to take over and tell them what to do. Those men and women, they earn that right every day. I'm there to support them. I don't care if I put on a traffic vest and go out there and direct traffic. It doesn't matter what brass is on my collar. I still love serving the community, and I still love being a police officer is what I came here for. And I'll get out there with them. 2 years ago, me and 8 people chased a pedophile all the way to Chattanooga that had an 11-year-old in the car. And unfortunately, 3 of us were ran over by that car, and we shot and killed that man that had that 11-year-old girl. And he'll never hurt another child again. And I was right there with my men and women. And that's the way I will continue to be as a sheriff, because I do want them to know that as their boss, I won't ask them, as he said, to do anything that I haven't done, and I'll still go out there and do it the best of my physical abilities at my age. I might not run as many blocks as I used to, but I will definitely get out there and support them any way I can, whether that's, like I said, directing traffic or doing a tow-in on a car. I don't care. I'll stay there to help them.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. It came
Real
up
loud.
Earlier in the discussion, what have you learned about your recruitment requirements that have made you lose so many people? Like, what's the problem? It seems to me, I'm a former recruiter, it seems to me that you're not answering or you're not asking the right questions of these people, because they should know what they're expected to do from the chief down, what their personalities are, what their expectations of these people are, what the inside of each person's heart is. You should not be putting them in any further training if you can't identify that they're going to be a really good cop from the beginning. So my question is, what have you learned from the fact that these people have walked the job?
All right, y'all go ahead, sir.
I'll go. Listen, so
He was chomping it.
the problem is that you don't know what you don't know. So that guy, until he rides in somebody's car and goes out for the first time, you don't know that you're scared.
Yeah.
And you don't like that uncomfortableness.
So
And if you're not scared, you're dangerous. So
So you can tell me,
Yeah.
if I was your recruiter for you, what questions do I need to ask of that person that could give you insight into that?
So that's why we love military, ex-military. You know, it's kind of similar, and just about 80% of the people we do hire are military, especially the guys that come straight to the street. You know, they've been out of their parents' house for a little while, and they make better recruits. They're grown men. They pay their own bills. They do some of the things that adults have to do. And they've been in situations in combat or otherwise in boot camp and things like that. And it's even hard because we put them in bad situations in training. I'm talking about, like, they know we can't hurt them, so so it's a little bit different. And then when they go out on the street, it's a different world. And it's not a controlled environment. And it doesn't take very long to figure out if somebody's going to be able to make it or not.
And you can ask all the questions that you want to ask.
No, you've already answered it. I know exactly where I'd be finding you guys people.
What we've learned
I'm
since
retired, but
what we've learned since COVID is here again the new generation coming in. Things that are important to them is different than what was important to gentlemen our age. So we have to listen to that in order to be able to recruit. Because for the first time, 8 years ago, we could have called the Merit Council. There was 100 applications over there. And after COVID, it's like for the first time in the 34 years I've been here, it just all dried up. I mean, and here again, it was the perfect storm of defund the police and COVID and the new generation. It was all these things at one time that came on, and it made it challenging. So we all had to get into the room and lock ourselves in there and look across the table and go, well, what can we do different? So we did create a recruiting agency under Sheriff Spangler, but we had to look at a lot of topics too. Not just the fact that you have 3 people physically going out there and trying to track. You got to listen and see what's important to them. What we were kind of astonished, and we still kind of joke amongst ourselves, is that what we found during that time when we started listening to them, here again, what's important. There was a large percentage of our deputies 2 years ago when Sheriff Spangler was working on the raises, that if you ask them, well, we'll give you 3% and let you wear a beard with your Class A uniform, or we'll give you a 6%. A lot of those young men would have taken the 3% and the beard. It was very important to them. The body art's very important to them. When I came here, I understood this was a paramilitary organization, and therefore I was expected at a certain level, especially in my Class A's, and that if you had those, that you would keep them covered, and that's always been it. But now, 3 years ago, we had to change all that, and so now the deputies are allowed to wear as long as there's nothing offensive. So it's those type things that we had to kind of learn there and open our minds in order to attract people. But I agree with these gentlemen real quick on the other things. You can put people, I mean, they have to go, for the Merit Council, they give them a psychological, physical, and they go through a testing procedure. They can seem straight up in an interview, and you can ask them all the right questions. And it's, here again, kind of an inside chuckle to us, or frustration chuckle, is these people, sometimes they will come to work here. We will send them to their CODA class. Then they get picked to go to the academy. They'll go to the academy and go, and that's a rigorous process. I mean, that's something to be proud of when you graduate from the academy. And then you'll go out in our FTO program, and they'll go out for a week or two, and the first time, I guess, somebody busts them in the mouth or something happens wrong that they weren't accepted, They walk in, they don't even turn in a notice. They come into our records division, take their gun belt off and lay it on the counter, and when the ladies working there at night are like, "What's this?" and they're like, "Well, I'm done." And they're like, "What's wrong?" and they go, "Well, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be." And you're like, "Wow, wasn't what you thought it was going to be." But just like he said, sometimes they don't know until they actually get out there, just like citizens sometimes don't understand what officers go through. Till you're there in one of those moments, then you realize, hey, you know what, I might not be cut out for this. So it's not necessarily a retention problem. It's a reality problem sometimes.
I didn't get that. I didn't get to answer it. I didn't get to answer
You got 5 extra ones anyway.
For me, law enforcement is a calling. Okay, you work 30 plus years, it's a calling. It's also service over self. Okay, so you look for people that have that mindset. They've been in public service, the military, or other law enforcement agencies, or caring for people. So you have to start with that. Also, common sense. Okay, being smart and having common sense in terms of your career or in your resume, and diving into those elements. You know, you want people smart, have common sense, and are driven. Okay, and so those are just a few of the initial intangibles that I would look at for someone that want to be an officer. All right.
Thank you, Mike. All right, but the gentleman back here in the suit and tie.
Okay, you can't read the question.
Yeah, I started to say,
No, that's a flag.
This is going to be complicated.
This is a question for everyone. Do you support working with ICE in proactive ways to remove all illegals from the county, like job site raids? And just to reiterate, all illegals, not just violent criminals.
All right, we'll start with...
I'll take it. I mean, that's fine.
All right, go, Brent.
All right, so listen, if you're here illegally and we run across you, or one of the task force members, or one of ICE runs across you, you will be deported. That's the rules. That's what the federal rule states, and I'm about it. Not only do I want to be a member of the task force, but I also want to be a member of the enhanced portion of the 287G. All right. If you don't know what that is, I'm not going to bore you here with it. I can explain it to you. Just go online and look at it. Go online and look at it. 287G, there's 3 different phases. Look those 3 phases up, and I'm 100% for all of them.
What about job site raids in particular?
Yeah, so that's the problem. Okay, go ahead. So the job site raids.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, if we get a complaint, that would give us reason to go out there. We're not going to go out to that job site probably unless there's something going on that's suspicious, all right? Unless we have a reason to go there. But when we get there and we're around these people, now we're going to do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. There again, I think that's what Mike was talking about. Job site specific is an ICE duty. That's an ICE duty. We'll help. We'll be there. If we get a complaint, we'll be right there. And if we find out you're illegal, you got to go. You know, that's part of going. If you don't commit a crime, but you're illegal, you've committed a crime. And we'll certainly be there to help. But our primary objective can't be going to job sites and rounding up illegal immigrants. That's for ICE to do.
Mike?
In that vein, if ICE goes to a facility and there's a couple hundred people there, we still have to be there in some capacity. So they don't just call us on the radio, hey, we've had a shooting incident, we have someone fleeing the scene. We still need to be there in some capacity for that working communication. And yes, if you cross the border, that's a crime. Okay? When you commit a crime, you have to pay the penalty. Okay? If you cross the border, you'll be deported. I think if it's twice, it's a felony. All right? So that's where I stand on that.
Yes, sir. I've said from the beginning that I do believe in the jail model we're doing now. I believe in securing our borders as we have. I definitely, equivocally, if I'm your next sheriff, I would sign the 287G, absolutely. Here again, my first thing is to reassess everything and see whether or not I'm not against the task force model if we decide that we have the proper personnel when we look at all of our options about the enforcement here in our community, that we could add to that by being more aggressive about it, because we as the sheriff have to be considerate of how many more people we're pushing in the jail, how much more time that takes. Here again, when you look at the primary responsibilities of the law enforcement that you're working side by side, ICE's job is to do immigration. Yes, I agree. Anybody that's here illegally, they are illegally here. And if we come across them doing our job, then we're going to take appropriate action. I'm for all that, to be clear. But I also want to be responsible as your sheriff and make sure that we are not tilting the scale so much that becomes our primary or a major part of our day-to-day, and that we can't answer those calls for service for all those other things that you as the community expect us to come to and be there for you and support you when something's going on, or you're scared for your loved one, or whatever that case may be. So I use it as a common sense approach. I think we evaluate where we're at manpower-wise when one of us takes over as the new sheriff. And I think we set our priorities, and part of that is listening to you and the community, and then we appropriately blend that out and what we need to have the vision moving forward to keep Knox County safe.
Okay. Who else had a question right here? Joey?
So I've had the opportunity to speak to most of you on this topic, and I'm not asking for a commitment on operational or broad scope stuff tonight. It's about restoring what some are calling the Farragut precinct. What I am asking is, in August we have a new mayor coming to town of Farragut and 2 new members of the board of mayor and aldermen. So what I'm asking for is, in your first 30 days, if you would commit to having a conversation with that new BOMA staff about operational and what the future of partnership looks like between Knox County Sheriff's Office and town of Farragut.
Okay.
Moderator?
I was saying, first of all, let's give a little background of what he's talking about, okay? There used to be in Farragut, if I'm not wrong, a substation. It was in a shopping mall. Is that correct?
Turkey Creek.
Turkey Creek. Okay.
It's a West Knoxville precinct.
Right, West Knoxville precinct. But I guess as time has gone on,
No, it's
I guess as time has gone on, it's been defunded. It's not there anymore. It doesn't function. No?
Can I explain it real quick?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm grabbing
that West Precinct was located in Turkey Creek, and the leasing manager there had been very generous to the sheriff's office. I don't know how many years that goes back, because it's not one of my primary responsibilities out there under detectives. But we've had it for at least 5, 6, 7 years. It's been a good partnership. Unfortunately, that leasing agent reached out to us several months back, to the sheriff, and spoke to him and before Bernie got sick, and said that unfortunately they were going to have to terminate that leasing space there, that they had a new client that wanted that particular space. So there was nothing ugly about it. It was a business decision. The Sheriff Spangler understood it. We understand it, and we respected the fact of what they had done for the Sheriff's Office to provide us this space at an incredibly reduced amount over the years. They suggested that we move to a space next door. The sheriff sent a project manager down there. It was going to be about $140,000. It used to be a salon, and so there was going to be sinks removed and all this stuff. So when the sheriff was presented with those numbers, the sheriff said, that's not in this year's budget. We can't do it, but we're going to respect your move-out date. They gave us a date. They needed us to be out of the precinct. So we did that. Immediately, the sheriff tasked several people with, where can we move the West Precinct? Well, it only took a few days to figure out that Knox County already had a new, for the other services in Knox County, they're up off Cedar Bluff, off Executive Park. So it was kind of like a natural gravitation straight to that. The controversy that's come up that we're alluding to here was the fact that once the sheriff made that decision, when he went to move out, to give us that day that we were going to be out, he released a press statement saying, hey, citizens of West Knoxville, we've lost our lease basically. We're having to find another place to go. It's going to be closed for right now, and we'll continue to look for it. That's the first time the mayor of Knoxville knew about it, was when that press release went out. So there was some confusion about, it wasn't a fact that Sheriff Spangler shut down the West Knoxville precinct. It's just moved to Cedar Bluff right now. And so that's what we're alluding to as far as the controversy goes. That developer has come back now after the commitment was already made at Cedar Bluff, and he has made another counter offer for some space. I haven't personally seen it, and it was at a reduced rate also for the taxpayers, and they were willing to commit to a lease. So that's the backstory on it, and then if I can bleed, I'll just bleed into my involvement. I have already, as a candidate, gone and met with the mayor and Dr. Smoke down there in the town of Farragut, because I do see this as a big transition as I use in my platform about what's going on in Knox County. So I went down and met with them. I asked them, what do you all need? What are you upset about? How can we make things better if I'm your next Knox County Sheriff? And we had about a 2-hour conversation about it, and it was a good conversation. I've pulled the numbers from the precinct as far as the phone numbers, how many phone calls we've made, how many reports were made out of that location there. And what I told them, obviously, I was there in my capacity as a candidate. I still work for Sheriff Spangler. I can't override or do things without his permission. But as a candidate, for me personally, I told that absolutely, if I was elected the sheriff, I'll come down and discuss those numbers with them and some staffing issues that they've asked for us to keep dedicated officers in the town of Farragut, which has always been a conversation that has gone on, not always positive, between the town of Farragut and prior administrations. So I will be willing to do that. If at that time that I was sworn in and the leasing agent wants to still honor that new thing, then definitely we'll look at the numbers. And here again, when we reassess our manpower, we would have to staff it. So we'd obviously have to look at that before we can make that final commitment. But that's what I would do as a candidate.
Any other gentleman have anything to say?
Yeah, my answer is short and sweet. My administration secured the location at Turkey Creek when I was sheriff. Okay, we did that. I have met with the mayor, and there needs to be a precinct in Farragut, not in Cedar Bluff. And my promise to the mayor was that immediately after I'm sworn in, we'll find a place in Farragut and have the precinct back. And we've always been dedicated to try to do that.
Yeah, sure. So I've talked to a bunch of residents in Farragut, and I led off the meeting this afternoon with actually saying that we need to concentrate on the places that have the population growth. We've been doing the same thing since I worked for Sheriff Hutchison back there. You know, we got the same zones and all over. So, you know, we need to split up that Farragut, that 401 zone, to make sure that we got everything covered, and the residents there aren't lacking a peace of mind that, hey, there's officers close if we need them.
It's about leadership. It's about the safety and security of the people of Farragut, okay? Cedar Bluff isn't Farragut, okay? When I'm sheriff, if I got to pitch a tent up down there, we're going to have a presence in Farragut and not have to go down Kingston Pike or the interstate from Cedar Bluff to get there. Okay, and I've talked to the mayor about this. You know, Chapman Highway is not Straw Plains. All right, so we're going to have a presence everywhere and not debate semantics about funding or this building or that building. We're going to be there, period, and that's what a leader does. Not debate with the mayor, Mr. Smoke. We're going to be there and protect the people of Farragut, period.
I'd like to correct that. There was no debate. It was reaching out to see what we could do better, and if I had that opportunity to be the next sheriff, that I was willing to reach out to them. There was no debate about it. Matter of fact, it was reaching out an olive branch to say, hey, let's let this next transition be a positive one. Let's talk about what we can do. And the biggest thing that I walked out of that meeting that I've gone and told everybody I've talked to, including that gentleman right there that asked the question, will tell you that I talked about on his podcast, that I was very humbled by. And that was when I reached out and did that conversation. That's a perfect proof to me why you have those conversations, is the mayor explained to me in general conversation that all of the property tax from the 26,000 people that are in Farragut goes to Knox County. I never knew that as a chief of detectives with the sheriff's office, because that's not my purview. And that's a fact. I fact checked him. That's true. All their property tax goes there, which I was bewildered by. I looked at him and Dr. Smoke and I said, well, how does the town of Farragut, what do you generate? And he said, well, that's our sales tax and our beer tax. And before I could take a breath and soak that in, he goes, and 50% of that goes to Knox County. And I fact checked him, and that's true. So I walked out of there with a totally different, humble perspective. If I am the sheriff, that I'm going to be like, We need to do more to listen, just like we listen to the men and women about the beard and the tattoos. We need to listen to the citizens of Farragut and the administration. If they're pumping that much money back into the Knox County fund, then we need to listen and redo whatever we need to do to make that more positive for them.
We need to be there, bottom line. We need to be there, period.
We are there.
All right?
All right, we have time for one more question. Who's got, okay, up to the front here.
Hey, y'all. Do you personally believe in a pathway to citizenship for the illegals and their children who have been here in this country for years, if not decades, not committing other crimes, but their only crime was crossing our border into our country illegally? Do you personally believe in a pathway to citizenship for them and for their children? Thank you.
So they got here illegally?
Yep.
No.
There is a pathway to citizenship. There is a pathway to citizenship, but us giving it to them is not the way to go.
No, they come in here and utilize our resources, okay, as illegal aliens, welfare, free phones, free housing. No, they broke the law. They're going back, period. All right?
I'm really against all the free benefits that our own veterans and everybody else struggles for. That's my big problem with it, is the fact, again, we're going to circle around to homelessness and everything else. There's a lot of things out there. Is there illegal immigrants that all the generations before of us sitting here in this room have allowed to work here? It's always been the same crime, right? It was always illegal to come across our border illegally. It was illegal all these years. The reality is that that's gone on for decades in our country, and people chose to turn the other cheek because they were doing a lot of jobs that other people didn't want to do, or that they thought they could do it for less or would do it for less. So, that's gone on, and now here we are in a crisis because we had a certain president that left our borders wide open, and now we're flooded with them. And we get back to the base rule of is being here illegal is illegal.
Let's give these guys